Hey traders, this is Taylor with Top Pick Trading. I want to give you guys a Wednesday chart review. It's Wednesday, September 13th, 2023. And here's our chart for the day. You can see we were just kind of rangy, had a failed breakout the other side. Stayed pretty much within these overnight lows and somewhat within the overnight highs, broke out here. But then we pushed strongly higher, fell over into this tighter range, and then dropped back in and got close to the overnight lows again, or rallying a little bit into the close. So yeah, let's get started on the review. Like I mentioned, ranged pretty evenly throughout the overnight. 8:30 news item. You don't want to be out before that. No setup anyway. Dropped lower, pushed higher, and we got this decent little trend that formed out of this failed break lower. We get two legs back right to the overnight support. So you can see this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Tested it here, and then 5. So, 5 test. We did break out once, but confirmed here. So I like this trade. It's also a second entry long, over 2 points back to the EMA. Expecting this to retest. So good bar. Yeah, it's a decent setup. This move down was pretty strong, but clearly looks like a two-legged correction with a break and new low from it. So I think you can take that trade pretty reliably. Just want to probably get out before that EMA. You can see that would have worked for a scalp. You would have survived if you went for an extremely large target, and then you would have gotten a huge move out of it, but I'd probably want to get out for that EMA. Anyway, we get the move up to a new high. We get a two-legged correction in here. At this point, we're coming back off those overnight highs, and this has a break a new high, so I'm not really considering a long in here yet. We push higher again. Now we're breaking out from the overnight highs, dropping sideways. This trade right here is a bit tempting, but it's a little congested, and there's not much room back at the EMA. That bar is really nice, but just didn't really set up quite in the right spot for what I would consider a good trade. So not going to mark that one. Like I said, this is all just part of a breakout at the moment, and the uptrends have played out, so I'm not really looking for a long in this anyway. We chop sideways. We get a failed breakout from this tighter range, bounce off the overnight highs, push back up into it. You can see how flat that EMA is here. We technically get a failed second entry short here just by the count. I don't really think this is a great setup because there's no confirmed uptrend, and that EMA is so flat, and you're trading right into that resistance. So see, it would have got you in by a tick and stopped you out. We chop sideways, push lower again. Push back into the overnight range. Push back higher again. Really nothing through here. It's just kind of chopping wildly down and up. Rangy type behavior, but not really holding a consistent support or resistance. We push right back up to this, generally this resistance area. It kind of lowered a little bit, but right in here. We drop strongly lower right here. Fortunately, no short setup there. Just get a first entry here, drops lower. Now with this downtrend has a break and a couple legs down. Bounce a little bit lower than the overnight support. Come back to the EMA, get a higher low, but just not really forming on the right spot, and kind of moved far to consider a higher low. Then we push higher. We get this confirmed uptrend here that holds pretty nice. I think it's a bit wider like that. It chops higher, turns right at this resistance level again, but the move up was pretty strong with no significant corrections. So when we get a visual second entry long right here, I really like this trade. Took a minute to take off. This little micro down move right here, a little strong. You had 4 bears in a row, so that makes this a little bit riskier, but I still marked it blue. You can see if you reset it here, you'd probably just see this as a first entry, but since that body's lower right there, still kind of looks like 2 legs back to me. The main thing on this one is the setup and signal bar are just fantastic here, right at the EMA, and the context is we're probably retesting because of this golden uptrend. So down move was a little bit strong, but I still think you can see this as a second entry and have a pretty good bet that that's going to retest this highs or at least get you a scalp. And you can see it really did struggle here for a moment. Then you get a higher low. Unfortunately, you got these 2 dojis right before, and it closes really high. Didn't break below either. I'm a little wary of that one. It's, if you did reset, you would see that as a second entry. So, if you took that, maybe you took a big limit on it, and it, would have came back and got you. But by that point, you already made the new high. So I think this one's a little bit risky for my taste. But I know some people took that trade. I just really hate these two dojis here. If it was just one bearish bar and then you ticked lower, pushed up, and closed right in here, I'd like that trade a bit more. Just kind of formed in the wrong location for what I like. We push higher here. We get a couple legs up to a new high. This looks like a separate little spiking channel as well, or really just a channel. It chops higher. This is this body is higher than this one, so this just looks like a first entry. So nothing there. Pushes higher, drops down, and now that bluish trend gets the retest. Made a higher high here. Push up, just kind of chopping sideways in this. Push down here. At this point, the support probably looked like this. Ended up having another support level. I'll just draw both of them separately, right in there. So at the time, you know, this is just a first entry really. I mean, you could technically count it as a second entry, but this move down is really strong, and it's only the second bounce there, so I don't think you can take that trade. You get a failed second entry short here, and this is pretty tempting. I liked it in real time, but you know, looking back, you did close below that EMA, and on this particular chart, you had 2 ticks off a perfect bar, and you're really just mid-range. So I think this one's a little riskier. If it formed just a bit better, maybe you take that one. But you know, looking in retrospect, I do think this one's a bit risky. I think you would have gotten like a 6-tick scalp or so. Yeah, if you entered on a stop, you went for 2 points, it would have failed you there. So and really, you've got the how that shifted. You've got the 3 confirmed touches on the bottom, but this may just be like an overshoot or something weird. I don't know. This trend just looks a bit weird to me on the upper side. But if you took that, I understand. Just these failures mid-range can be really tricky to identify correctly and know when to stay out of. So better just to avoid most of them if you see these range type movements and a failure right in the middle of that area. So we push lower, we break this uptrend here if it is valid. You get a couple legs up to this range resistance. This one's tempting. This didn't break lower here, so this is technically a second entry short. Just got so big, got right back into the EMA. You know, if this formed maybe a little bit higher, you consider that one because now you got the 2 clear legs up here, but it's got really big, 12 ticks. So yeah, I don't think you want to take that one just because of the size. We get a lower high, but just close to the middle of this range behavior. Drops lower, bounces at this red support line that's a little bit higher than the initial support. And we get a higher low here, but the bar is just not great, and it's closing too high. We push up. This move up here is fairly strong and tight, so it's probably warrants a retest. So when you get this lower high, boy, that's tempting. It's turning right at this resistance level. But I really think you got to avoid it. It's really tempting in real time, but when that EMA start holding it, and at this point, if you did draw the range like this, you can see that's right at the midline, and that's definitely what held it up. You can see how many times this midline held right here, right here, right here, and then later on right here. So it's just tricky in ranges, but this is strong enough, in my opinion, that you're probably going to want to let prices try to retest that high, and they do. So I don't know if you would have even gotten a 4-tick out of this. Let's see. Yeah, just enough for a 4-tick scalp, but got to be wary of that midline and EMA in that case. Anything in the middle of these ranges is just risky. So if this formed a little bit higher and you know closed right in here, you got a lot more room. But this just once again got pretty big. So anyway, pushes higher, kind of chops in the upper half of this range. Get another new high. You got several in a row here, and you can see it really looks sideways still, but it is making higher highs and higher lows. So just keep that in mind. But at this point, all these uptrends seem to have played out. We drop back inside this major range resistance area. We get a lower high here with no wider trend lines that look valid. So you can probably ride this back at least to the midline here. Fortunately, that doji's there, so it makes it a bit more aggressive. And like I mentioned, the higher highs, higher lows, just in general, make this a little bit more unclear if we're just trending upward and there's some channel you're not seeing, or if it's still range behavior. But I like that bar. I like the way it formed. If you saw it, it ticked one above and really shot down quickly. So I think you can take that trade. You just probably want to get out before this area. So yeah, right around 2 points. Would be a lot better without that doji though. So yeah, that worked nicely. Pushes lower. Get by the count, a failed second entry, but we talked about how you don't want to necessarily consider those in the middle of ranges, especially if a trend line's not holding. like this. We got the break here, 4 strong bull bars in a row. It would have worked nice, but I think once again that's probably too risky, especially if you let it close. It's huge once again and near the lows. We chop lower. And here we get like a couple bounces at the same support level, but notice it's kind of hard to describe this, but sometimes in these ranges here, when one side starts to take precedence and we're chopping in this upper half and we come back down, you can't just assume that it's still a range. This move down is pretty sufficient, or significant, I should say. And also, this has been a 2-hour gap. A couple other things you want to note before considering this long. EMA held here, here, and here. Also 2 ticks, so not perfect. Prices are really starting to lose steam. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 lower highs now. And notice this is also overlooked. We made a tick lower here, so it's not a higher low, it's not an equal low. So in my opinion, you can see that prices are losing steam. Same thing with the lower side, not just the lower highs, but the lower lows. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's chopping lower here, so you want to avoid that. If you did take it and got out at the MA, I guess it would have worked for you, but be careful of this one, especially when this bar didn't take off. That one's a little more nuanced, but I think that tick lower there is pretty significant. Anyway, it pushes up to that midline, that significant area we talked about, and the EMA drops lower, drops strongly lower. We get a pretty strong push back up into the EMA. If we got a nice 2-legged pullback here, you could consider it a short, but this move up is pretty strong and didn't give a second entry anyway. So we drop lower, get the new low on this downtrend, and then we start working higher and get a nice little uptrend here. Fortunately, that's after 3:30, and on this particular chart, I don't see any setups in this area anyway. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Not many setups. Many of you may know I'm watching multiple charts. They're all on the 2000 tick chart, but you can uncheck the setting break at end of day, and basically it'll offset your bars by a particular amount. And if you want to do that, you can at least get a couple instances of different bars. So if you're looking at an area that's you believe to be good context, if the bar didn't set up on one of your charts, it may set up on the other chart. So just something to think about. I wouldn't try to overload yourself watching several of those at the same time, but particularly on slower days, it may give you a couple more opportunities. And it's really nice if both charts align. It can kind of give you some more confluence. It's also nice because congestion may not be as obviously spotted on one chart, but on the other you may see that it's congestive. So it can also not just give you more trades, but keep you out of bad ones. That's something to consider. There were some pretty good opportunities on my second chart today, but we're just going to review this primary one. And you can see that there was still, about 3 good opportunities, in my opinion, to enter. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that. Make sure to subscribe and like the channel if you enjoy this content, and we'll keep it coming. Thanks for watching.